Hi everybody and welcome to today's Art of Procurement podcast. I'm Philip Heidson, the founder and managing director of Art of Procurement. And as we all know, it's a really exciting time to be in procurement, especially with the pace of technological change. And so today's podcast is part of a special sponsored series that's taking part over the last 2 weeks of January 2020, where we aim to shine a light on the emerging and growth companies who are changing the way that leading procurement teams are driving outcomes that truly align with corporate objectives. And so we're going to ask an entrepreneur from 8 different companies questions about what gap in the market their solution addresses, how they differentiate their technology, and what the tools look like in action. It's a great way for you to get to know those who are truly leading the way when it comes to the digitization of procurement. And so in today's podcast, I talked to Tarmo Saidla of ProcurementFlow. I first asked Tarmo to share ProcurementFlow's elevator pitch.
ProcurementFlow is a procurement software which really aims to transform the way the procurement teams work and collaborate. It's a cloud-based system, so very simple to start with, and then the focus really is set for the first part of the procurement work, which is requests, approvals, and sourcing. So everything that is happening before basically the purchase order is sent out, this is where we come to play, and how we work or what we aim to give to the procurement teams is really the possibility to organize work, to automate work, and most importantly to enjoy what they do. So that's what ProcurementFlow is all about.
So when you think about from a product perspective, if you could help listeners kind of visualize, they log into ProcurementFlow, what do they see and what are you trying to help the users actually do? So essentially people come in with a request like a ticketing system. Is that how it works, where they need to buy something and it brings it into like a board and that helps then collaborate on that request, whatever it is, throughout the buying process? Is that right?
That's. I think you're heading to the right direction. It's and if we now visualize it to the audience, and then logging into the ProcurementFlow, you start with basically with the visual board. We call it as a Kanban board. I mean, in Kanban in Japanese means the visual management, and they can start to work with purchasing requests basically, and it's very simple drag and drop environment. You can drag the purchasing requests between different stages, and then while you do that, well, obviously there are processes that are happening on a back end.
Right.
So, but the main focus while we started to develop this, we were a bit opposing to the traditional procurement systems, which are, quite often, to be honest, quite clumsy, and then you need to like tick many boxes and too many steps. We really started from the visual and from the user environment, and they have made it super clean for users, so it's they can do much actions by just doing this drag and drop, which is kind of a normal way how we work. I mean, let's say offside of our work environment. I mean, we do this drag and drop. I mean, quite often on our mobile phones, etc.
Right.
So bringing that user experience also to the work environment. And to be honest, this is not something new, right? I mean, there are software out there like Jira, Trello, etc. I mean, we're doing the same thing, but we put it into the procurement source, as we say, and really made it for procurement teams.
Yeah, it's contextualized for procurement.
Exactly.
And so when somebody submits a request, they could submit a request through email, for example, and it comes automatically into your ProcurementFlow board as a request. And so you could have somebody on your team essentially being the central point of contact that starts to manage those requests and then assigns them within the tool to each one of the buyers based on what the request is.
Completely right. I mean, that's how it is because, well, my background is, well, I've been working in a big companies, and I know how difficult it is to kind of implement the new software where multiple functions they need to kind of start using it. They need to log in. There is a new environment for multiple stakeholders. I mean, for us, I mean, or how we work is that the procurement flow, well, obviously this is a tool for procurement teams, but everyone else, I mean, requesters, approvals, suppliers, I mean, they can still work by using their the emails, etc. I mean, which is kind of a normal way how they work. But we just collect this information from emails to procurement flow board and really allow companies to do centralized procurement. I think this is really a big thing where we come to help.
And so within the tool, when you move from a request, we talked about folks who have a need, you know, they will email and it will come into the tool, into the board, if you will. When you move it into the sourcing stage, can you do things like run an RFP or an RFI or RFQ through the tool, or is that still a manual process where you're just entering the results into Procurement Flow?
No, it's of course you can run an RFI, RFP, RFQ, collaborate with suppliers, and also then well, we're also capturing if you send out an RFI to 10 different suppliers, and the suppliers are responding to that RFI, then we are capturing also these responses. So keeping everything, all the communication next to the request, basically. So that's a big value because how it traditionally works is that there is a process that is happening in ERPs, MRPs, etc. And then there is a communication flow which is happening typically in mailboxes, right? And these two flows, they're not necessarily connected, and there is so much time is spent on searching information, validating what is the latest stage, etc. But in our case, I mean, we keep all the procurement tasks and all the related communication next to each other, and then they're always in sync. So you just open a request. Either is it still in a request stage, or is it in a sourcing stage, or is it in a PO stage? But while opening it, you can see all the communication steps and activities next to that particular card.
And so for I'm interested, when you look at which kind of procurement teams is Procurement Flow built for? Do you find that there's a particular characteristic of a procurement team, whether it's size or maturity, where Procurement Flow has the biggest impact, or is it something that you see actually your teams across the spectrum, large, small, very mature, just starting on their transformation journey? Who does this help the most?
Very good question. And this is something that while we started this procurement flow, I mean, we had one vision in front of us. Then obviously while talking with customers, this vision has shifted. I mean, and we in the beginning, we thought really, let's say, a narrow audience or kind of engineering companies mostly and this stuff, because we know that when there is a new innovations coming to the market, and also there is a procurement project which is backing that up and etc. And then there is a need to have some very flexible tool. But actually now, I mean, having discussed with hundreds of different customers from different industries, we see that really the audience is quite wide. I think the only thing that is needed is basically that there is a procurement team.
Right.
Well, sometimes also actually there are a couple of customers who there is basically a one-man show, but they need to serve like a multiple organizations. So also in these cases, the procurement flow works really well. When it comes to team maturity, this is something that we do not really really segment or select that they need to be like more mature or less mature. I mean, this is not the case, but yeah, I mean, preferably there is a procurement team, right?
Yeah.
Because then all these work management things that you can assign new requests to a team member, to one team member, second one to the second team member. I mean, and this teamwork effect comes also into the play.
So as a request comes in and it goes through the procurement flow, the procurement process, do you have approval capability within the tool as well, where folks can, essentially get the approvals and build a governance process and a workflow?
Yeah. This approval is because what we saw was really that approvals is something where actually so much time is lost in companies, and what is the issue with approvals is that let's say if we imagine ourselves as a requester, we post a request that we need something. We need, for example, flight tickets to London, right? Rather simple task for a procurement organization to handle. The request comes into the procurement flow. It's assigned to a purchaser, and well, now it can be different in different organizations, but naturally typically there is also some kind of approval step there. So let's say the purchaser initiates the approval, asks approval from a requester line manager, and then requester line manager is off on a vacation or on a business trip, not able to respond, all that stuff, and then this request is stuck for a week, for example.
Right.
Requester is angry that the procurement organization doesn't really perform.
Yep.
Procurement organization is unhappy because they cannot really do their job because something is pending, etc. So there we saw a really big problem in organization, and we're really trying. We will really, let's say, make a change in this approval flow. I mean, there are different ways to do the approval. We have a linear approval, we have a parallel approval, and what is maybe the most interesting is that this approval, let's say, time spent on this idle time, idle approval time. This is actually we are able to visualize it. We're able to show it. I mean, where is it stuck? I mean, what's the reason this request doesn't move forward, etc. So that there isn't this kind of approval black box that is quite often happening. Yeah. So and in our case, I mean, this approval can be started in every basically stage. So it's very dynamic. It is either before the request, after the request is in, before the order, etc. So in all stages the approval can be started, and here I can really say that we can significantly reduce the time that is spent on approvals, and therefore, I mean, overall procurement cycle time,
right,
it's
shortening,
is relatively shorter. Right?
Mm-hmm. I have one last question, Tarmo, and that's for folks who come and engage with ProcurementFlow, who use your tool, your software. Like, what are the things that they're looking to? What are the challenges they're looking to solve for? What benefits does ProcurementFlow bring them that makes it an attractive proposition for them?
Right. And I think, I mean, one of the things that I just spoke here was the procurement cycle time. Yeah. So significantly reducing the time that is basically from request to PO sent. So basically this cycle time is something that we are able to reduce, and then we are able to reduce it by 50%. Then naturally the second benefit is really the centralized procurement. And if you're able to do the centralized procurement, you're obviously able to save some costs here, right. some money. So these are really the values. Then there are many kind of a softer KPIs like a team management, team motivation, etc. Yeah. Which are also really important for us because we want to kind of reduce or help companies to reduce workforce fluctuation and all that stuff. And we know that procurement work sometimes can be really routine. I mean, there are really very many repetitive tasks, etc. So if you put our automation into it, then the procurement persons have more time to do on more fun stuff. Because I mean, from my experience, I'm the procurement guy, right?
Yeah.
That the procurement persons, I mean, they shouldn't really work in office like a sales guy, but actually, I mean, the best procurement guys, I mean, they spend time on visiting suppliers, meeting suppliers, and doing all that stuff and building relations, right? Not fulfilling some repetitive tasks.
Administration and all the things that we want to reduce as much as possible, so we can focus on the things that matter, and then increase the value that procurement brings by doing it.
Yeah, naturally.
Oh, well, Tarmo, I want to thank you so much for your time. I have one last question, and that's if listeners are interested in just learning a little bit more about ProcurementFlow, where's the best place for them to go?
The best place would be definitely, I mean, our website, ProcurementFlow.com, where we have also published a lot of good stuff to read.
Yeah.
I mean, how to get rid of Excel in procurement and all that stuff, and how to manage procurement projects. And there are quite many blog posts that I also would urge our listeners to read. But yeah, I mean, ProcurementFlow.com, naturally. There is also a button what can be clicked to request for a demo.
Yeah.
So this is something that I would also encourage to our listeners to push, right? And I think that really the best way really to understand how the procurement works is to write me, and then I can really do the demonstration, or somebody from my team members.
Okay, great. Well, what I'll do is I'll include the links to your website, to the place where they can book a demo, and to your blog on our show notes page for today's episode. That will be at artofprocurement.com/podcast. You'll either see a link to Startup Series and then look for Procurement Flow, or you can just search for Procurement Flow as well. And the page for today's episode, along with all those links, will come up. So, Tarmo, I just want to thank you one last time for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this special Startup Series on the Art of Procurement. To listen to the entire series and for the show notes pages that accompany each episode, please go to artofprocurement.com/startup series.